The most uninhabited regions of the planet are located in the extreme south and north of the planet. They are areas of extremely cold climate. Given this statement, the subject in question is the Arctic, which covers a territory of 21 million square kilometers, with a large part of this area formed by the waters of the Arctic Glacial Ocean, in this case 65%. The other 35% are made up of a huge number of islands, the largest of which is Greenland. The Arctic region is located in the extreme north of the American, European, and Asian continents. The countries that have territories or part of them in the Arctic are United States, Alaska, Canada, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. The Arctic is located at the North Pole. It has very low temperatures, especially in winter, which is extremely harsh. However, temperatures are low throughout the year, so the average annual temperature is 28 Fahrenheit. Due to the climatic characteristics that predominate in this region, there are no conditions for the propagation of diversity of lives, so the restricted existing vegetation is modest, dispersed, and with an extremely fast duration. Its cycle develops in only 2 months throughout the year, July and August, a remarkable period in the hemisphere. The existing vegetation is the tundra, which corresponds to a vegetative composition formed by mosses and lichens and, rarely, small herbaceous vegetation. The Arctic Ocean is considered an inland sea, but as it remains almost all year frozen, it does not favor fishing and transport activities. In this ocean are found many ice floes, which are huge blocks of ice, with an average thickness of 10 m and 1,000 kilometers, in addition to thousands of icebergs that correspond to immense blocks of ice from continental waters that migrate southwards until reaching the oceans. Atlantic and Pacific. The name Arctic comes from the word Arctos, which means Ursa, being a reference to two constellations present in the northernmost part of the planet, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, and the latter is the polar star. However, despite being an astronomical reference, the name Arctic can serve as a reference for the most famous animals in this region, polar bears. It is quite true that even though it is not a continent, and even though it has a climate as severe as the cold polar Arctic climate, there are animals living in the Arctic, including terrestrial animals such as the bear. There are also seals residing in the Arctic and a few fish and other marine animals, given the difficulty of surviving in such an inhospitable environment. In addition to the cold, another factor that makes life difficult in the Arctic are extreme latitudes, such as in Antarctica, where almost uninterruptedly, for 6 months there is a night/winter, dark and extremely cold, and the other 6 months of the year, one day/summer, with clarity and less severe weather. The famous midnight sun is even an attraction for tourists, since the early mornings still have the presence of the sun given the tilt of the Earth's axis and the translational movement that puts one pole of the Earth and now another closest to the sun throughout the year. From the word Arctic, the name given to the continent that is at the South Pole, Antarctica, Antarctic, opposite the Arctic, was derived, however, very different from it, even though it is not a continent but a frozen ocean with some islands, and that extends to the lands of 3 other continents. The Arctic is inhabited by diverse peoples such as the famous Inuit, which means people in their language, better known by the pejorative term Eskimos, something like raw meat eaters. In terms of environmental problems, they suffer from exactly the same environmental problem as the South Pole, global warming, caused by the increase in the greenhouse effect due to the increase in atmospheric pollution. Global warming causes the polar ice caps to melt, raising the water level of the other oceans. The economic activities carried out in the Arctic are basically extractive, and many have a great environmental impact. Whether it's the hunting of seals, whales and bears, or the constant traffic of oil tankers that eventually suffer damage due to the ice and end up dumping oil into the sea.
Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and see you in the next series.